Feel Good TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Ming of Revolution. Bad news for me. As Rep Luna says, she got new evidence in the Tory Lanze case. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Let's get into the content. Salute.
2022, singer, rapper Tory Lanze, convicted of shooting performer Thee Stallion after a party at the Hollywood Hills home of Kylie Jenner. Here's the story. They're at the party. After the party, they get into an argument. Lanze tells Thee Stallion, dance, and shoots at her feet like a cowboy movie, hits her. Proof, testimony of Thee Stallion, her friend Kelsey Harris, and DNA evidence on the weapon that convinced jurors to convict. Pretty simple, right? Maybe not. Turns out that DNA, only a 0.01% chance that the DNA is from Lanze. He's always maintained his innocence. He was sentenced to 10 years. So this is really about the testimony. Lanze, so what happens? So he goes away, recently stabbed 14 times in prison. Many say it was a hit, okay? Because new evidence is about to come out. All right, a little conspiratorial, but he was definitely stabbed. Lanze supporters believe that the media doesn't care because Thee Stallion is represented by Jay-Z's Rock Nation. Now, I could give a damn about Jay-Z or his company. This just wasn't a case on my radar until now. Why? Anna Paulina Luna. She is a representative from Florida. You see her here on a regular basis. She says she's got new evidence, says it wasn't him. And she joins us now. Representative APL, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back on. And thanks for taking a look at this case.
No, listen, you tell me to take a look at it, I'll look at it. But why did you look at it? I mean, this isn't your jurisdiction. I don't know you to have any connection to any of these people.
Yeah, so as you know, we are on oversight and accountability. And so this case was actually initially flagged for me by Amber Rose. And the reason why I took particular interest in it is because of the fact that they actually had evidence that they presented to me in my office that actually disproved the conviction. So as you stated earlier, that 0.01% of DNA, they actually found 4 people's DNA on that firearm, none of which was Tory's. Not to mention there was 0 fingerprints on the actual magazine. And also, too, as you said, 0.01% chance. I mean, that evidence in itself should pretty much speak for itself. Also, there's been ring footage that's been obtained that actually disproves the whole dance, Megan. And so what we're seeing is really there was a case of he said, she said. The evidence wasn't actually respected and properly adhered to actually in the trial. And then they also were doing something that I would find pretty wild and egregious. They're actually submitting his lyrics for rap as evidence to the crime. So look, first and foremost, you have to have a free and fair society. That means we need to respect and uphold the justice system. So I actually reached out today to Gavin Newsom's office, and we are requesting an emergency meeting. We're also working with other Democrats, specifically to the California delegation. But I think that this is something that's pretty egregious, that the way that this was handled, the way that it was. I think that it was largely driven by headlines. And aside from the people involved and the parties involved. Obviously, I take domestic violence, I take this very seriously, Chris, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent. And I think that it sets a really bad message when you have someone of his stature and also to someone that is as influential as he is, it's being wrongfully incarcerated. And that's exactly why we wanted to use our megaphone for a good reason and help get him his pardon, which I think he'll get.
So Luna, who did it? I mean, she says, and her friends say, that he did it, and who else would have done it, and what proof do you have to support that? I get it. Maybe they didn't make the case the right way with the weapon, but who did it?
You know, Chris, that's not for me to weigh in, and that's definitely for the judge and the jury. But what I will tell you is based on the evidence that we have, the evidence that we have says that he wasn't the guy. And so I do think that Gavin Newsom has some great attorneys that will look at this. But I'd also like to point out that the prosecutor specifically on this case that initially brought the charges is a very interesting prosecutor look into who ran him. And at the end of the day, I think Hollywood, as you know, Chris, and politics does overlap, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. So look at the evidence for yourself. We've posted it for the entire world to see, to determine for themselves. And I know that Tory's legal team actually has an incredible case. And so we are calling on Gavin Newsom to issue that pardon immediately. And also remember, he was almost killed in jail. I actually talked to him today on the phone, and he said that once he does get out, once he does get this pardon, which I do feel confident that he'll be getting, he's going to work extensively in prison reform, because this should never happen to anyone.
Anna Paulina Luna, this is a really interesting one. I've never covered a situation like this before, but I appreciate you using your platform. And let the legal team know we'll be reaching out if they want to come on to make the case. I'm happy to hear it, and we'll check in with the governor's office as well. Thank you very much for coming on.
Driving from Florida to California last night. So let's start with the evidence after the press conference you just held today. What new evidence has come to light that you believe justifies a pardon from the governor for Daystar Peterson, Tory Lanze?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pretty interesting last few days, since most of your viewers probably have not been following this case. But during COVID, it was a pretty large case that a lot were talking about due to the sensationalism of the artists that were involved. One being very supportive of Kamala Harris, Thee Stallion. And so she rose to a lot of fame with those supports. But with this situation with Tory Lanze, actually his real name is Daystar Peterson, is an egregious situation. Tory has been serving over 1.5 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit, and we have the evidence. So today, in light of the brutal stabbing, 14 stab wounds on gentleman's body in prison. And let me tee this up to understand why this press conference today was significant. Last week, the New York Post had reached out for comment off of an op-ed that Gianno Caldwell, my friend and someone I serve on his advisory board on his public safety institute called the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety. He wrote an op-ed laying out all the injustices in Tory Lanez's case. The New York Post was working on a piece and had reached out to the camps of Thee Stallion, Kelsey, and the former DA Gascon for comment.
And really quickly, who's Kelsey?
Kelsey was the bodyguard to Kelsey was the assistant to Thee Stallion, who was involved in the incident that night in the car that Megan claimed that she had been shot. Okay. So I know there's a lot of context here, but a few days later, Tory was attacked coming out of his cell and almost murdered. The intent was to kill. We do not think that that's coincident. After a few days following that, the New York Post had reached out for comment to their camps, and Tory was attacked. Bodyguard and driver came forth and gave his testimony on the affidavit. It 100% matched the actual testimony that was originally given by the bodyguard that night. And those two people did not communicate. They didn't know each other. So there's no cooperating of story there. And so today we came forward in light of Tory's harm that happened to him in prison, and we are calling for the governor to pardon Tory Lanze. The evidence is very clear that he is an innocent man. And at this point, we do not believe that the system is able to protect him, and he's innocent, so he needs to be released. There's no reason why he needs to continue to be in there. So we're calling on the governor to pardon him and to send him home. And we really believe that this is an egregious act of misjustice, and is important as conservatives who believe in law and order that this is something that we see through and fight for to get this young man home to his son and his family.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to
Stallion is scrambling right now as new evidence emerges or is set to emerge. But Tory Lanze, hashtag free Tory, is getting support from an unlikely source. And that source is a sitting U.S. Congresswoman. Yes, we're going to go over her statements, which has caused panic in the Megan Thee Stallion camp. But before we go over that, I want to show you Megan's last message in regards to everything that's going on right now. First and foremost, at least she's not getting up on live stream and speaking. I'm sure that she had this reviewed by people of her team before she put it on there, instead of just going live like the original way that she first tried to out Tory, and we poked holes in her story like Swiss cheese because a lot of it didn't make sense. Nevertheless, let's go over what she's saying right now. At what point are y'all gonna stop making me have to relive being shot by Tory? At what point are Tory and y'all fans gonna stop lying? Like, how much is the check to keep harassing me? Why is this happening every day? 1 minute, him/y'all said I was never shot. Matter of fact, you said that, Megan the male horse. You said that. You said that it was glass at first. You remember that? Or we just revising history?
Do my shit, pop my shit like the bitch I always been. And I'm trying to save niggas. And y'all on the internet talking about, oh, bitch ain't get shot, we do this, oh, free tour. That nigga not in jail. He not in jail because I didn't tell the laws what happened as soon as it happened, and I should have.
So he'll be in jail now.
I'm smart. I didn't have to spare that nigga. I don't have to spare nobody, but I did. And I'm done. Y'all asking where people at? Why ain't nobody saying nothing? Ask them why they not saying nothing. I haven't talked to the same people. Y'all worry about where they at.
1 minute, y'all said I was never shot. Now y'all let him play in y'all face again and say that I was shot, but it wasn't him. Oh, okay. Matter of fact, I don't even know if she had anyone read this. Nevertheless, I'm sick of this ish. Leave me the F alone. Exclamation point. He ain't dare get on that stand and deny that he me. And that was his choice because he knows he did that ish. I don't give a F about a blog or a bot. Why in the F would me, Megan Thee Stallion, have to lie on this MF about shooting me? How mad at the person that got shot. Facts are facts. He did it, and it was proven. In court, F the hate campaign on the internet. Tory, you shot me. Wow. Ain't no new effing evidence. Y'all been saying the same ish for years. Tory, please leave me alone. You are a effing demon. I'm off this silly ash internet ish. Goodbye. Yeah, I'm sure that everybody that's falsely imprisoned right now will agree with you that if it's proven in court, that must mean that it's true, right? So Megan released this after mounting pressure, not specific to that news conference about a week or so ago, where they said that they had a former bodyguard from Kelsey's camp that admitted under sworn oath that he overheard Kelsey saying that the gun was fired from her. Megan ignored that. It didn't really heat up until the Congresswoman got on Tory's side. Now, the Congresswoman, whose name is Anna Paulina Luna, wrote this from her Twitter account. Tory Lanze was sentenced to 10 years despite having no prior record, largely due to a firearm enhancement law now under scrutiny for racial bias. Black defendants face a 92% higher rate of this enhancement. That's not justice. That is discrimination. She goes on to write that the forensic evidence in the Lanze case was deeply flawed. 0.01% chance his DNA was on the firearm, 0% on the magazine, no fingerprints, DNA from 4 individuals found. Tory wasn't a primary contributor. Key gunshot residue tests never performed on others. This raises serious doubts. Mind you, Kelsey had immunity, so she never had to give a DNA sample, so it was never cross-referenced to check what was on the firearm. She goes on to write, newly surfaced body cam and medical records show Megan Thee Stallion initially claimed that she stepped out on glass. Now, we knew that from her own admission. ER records show that no bullet fragments on the x-rays, bullet fragments allegedly removed, are now missing. Evidence handling was a disaster. This is like in murder cases, it significantly increases the rate of conviction if they find the body, because then forensics can be ran, additional information can be utilized in order to prove who done it. Here, you don't even have the fragment, huh? But was still able to get a conviction when his DNA was not found on the firearm, huh? Crazy. Under California's Racial Justice Act and recent legislation limiting the use of rap lyrics and character evidence, Tory Lanze deserves a full review. His conviction was built on an outdated and unconstitutional grounds. Tory Lanez's trial included prosecutorial misconduct, exclusion of mitigating factors, use of protected speech, rap lyrics, tattoos as evidence, witness contradictions, immunity deals with unclear motives. This is not how justice is supposed to work. Key witnesses changed their stories or contradicted themselves. One admitted in court she lied in a DA interview. Another, this is a security guard, gave a statement that Harris admitted to firing the gun. This case deserves fresh eyes and full transparency. And then she cites the portions of the Constitution that are a raise of concern in regards to his case. And then she follows up and she's standing on business. Justice isn't served when due process is ignored, evidence is mishandled, and race plays a role in sentencing. Tory Lanez deserves a fair hearing, and if justice prevails, he deserves his freedom. Free Tory Lanez. And she copied the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. She then follows up adding the governor again and saying, I'm calling on Governor Newsom to review the Tory Lanez case and issue a pardon. His 10-year sentence was based on flawed evidence, political pressure, and prosecutorial bias. Justice may be blind, not driven by headlines. Free Tory Lanez. And then followed up with a link to the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety to sign a petition to free Tory Lanez with a full letter that I'll leave for you guys down in the comment box, the description box, for you guys to be able to go over, because the Twitter version was the smaller summary, and you can sign the petition right here. And it looks like at this point it has over 270,000 verified signatures. Now, hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought she was finished? She then follows up this morning and says, we have compelling evidence proving Tory Lanez's innocence, and it will be released in the next 36 hours. Those who rushed to call for his incarceration and worse, yet pushed false evidence, should be prepared to be held accountable. This is exactly why Megan started to panic, and chances are she doesn't even know what this evidence is.
How the hell is the Democrats, Jay-Z and them suckers talking about freeing people, innocent people, racial injustice in prison systems, why they locking this man up over political reasons? Never forget, Kamala Harris used this lady. That's right. Kamala Harris used this lady so people could shake their ass to the polls. Never forget the governor of California. He was in on it too. He wanted to be president. Now his ass on the hot seat.
And here's what I truly believe. I don't think Megan knows who shot her. I think that at the point that she pinned it on Tory, there is no going back, though. So any evidence that goes against what her accusation was, what they've created all of them Hulu, Netflix documentaries about, would absolutely ruin her. So why would she want the truth to come out? Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking off of the bat, seeing that this is a congresswoman. Oh, look at this DEI supporting, right? Like Black BLM, Black Lives Matter. Well, she's actually Republican. She ain't about that life. This is actually posted from her IG account, a message from Donald Trump showing support. Now, one of the
Republican, see, this political now. See, this is why the shoe shiners got to be careful, because it's the other side of the political coin. This is Jay-Z. I'm pretty sure they're going to get some RICO on his ass real soon, because he played a political game with the Democrats. They no longer in power. This is a Republican lady who said it was injustice, racial laws used to lock this man up. The Republican lady said Democrats used, get this, unjust racial practices with the gun charge to get him 10 years, never been in trouble in his whole life. Nobody gets 10 years, they never been in trouble in their whole life. Where's the probation? Where's all that type of shit? No, the Democrats didn't want that, because they was hoping Megan could help Kamala. Remember, they was doing the sister girl sorority BS act, hoping they get all the females to shake their ass to the polls. Now they're not in power, and they're going to have to pay for it.
a little bit more information about her and found this video.
I would just like to remind people that whether you're white, black, brown, we all bleed the same. So to have this completely divisive ideology being pushed, to have members from across the aisle making it about race.
Ana Paulina Luna is a freshman member of Congress from Florida, and she is one of the newest and most prominent young faces in the Republican Party right now, certainly on Capitol Hill. She represents a generational shift for Republicans in a number of ways. She's the youngest member of the Republican Conference right now. She's the fourth youngest member of the House.
Exposed the whole Democratic injustice system. The prison system is unjust. Blacks are being unfairly targeted and sentenced to unfair practices. Why they did this, man? This didn't happen in the red state. This happened in the bluest of the blue states, California, where the Democrats are the strongest. This couldn't even reach the grand jury if they didn't want it to. But they done it for politics. This is what you got to pay attention. That man sentenced around election time where they didn't need it. And who did they couldn't say she lied and was getting the man illegally convicted while Kamala Harris was trying to become the president of the United States. And if Kamala would have won, Tory ass would be in there. Nobody would care. He'd probably be dead. He would probably been more successful than it was. But now for Trump to rubber stamp this and say he's backing this, man, it's over. It's over for them. And Meg is in serious trouble because she not only did she perjure herself, now you are trying to intimidate witnesses who are trying to come forward. You're trying to intimidate people, man. Tory already got hit up. You trying to threaten people on your social media posts. You can say whatever you want, and so can they.
She's the first Mexican-American representative from the state of Florida. And only with 6 months on the Hill under her belt, she's already making a significant difference within the Republican Party.
Americans have absolutely lost faith in our justice system. And frankly, while this is happening, just imagine what the world is thinking.
There has been a growing trend of people who get elected to Congress and then who parlay their seat into a huge online following. You saw that, I think, first and foremost with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then with some newer members of the Republican Party like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert. But what Ana Paulina Luna represents is really the first member who came in as a social media influencer and used that to engineer a successful campaign to then win a seat in Congress.
Wow.
She also was enticed into conservative politics because of the rise of Donald Trump. She told me she went with her father to a Trump rally early in 2016, and that's where she kind of caught the bug and became more and more vocal on social media. You know, as she's shown, she's very loyal to Trump.
This is an attempt to unseat a sitting president, which is also known as a coup.
She was on Fox News regularly. She had lots of clips that go viral. In 2019, when Kamala Harris was a presidential candidate, she randomly ran into her at the airport and asked a stranger.
I didn't even know Trump had rubber stamped to. It's definitely all the way over. The president of the United States is in power, and he's rubber stamped this girl because she believed in him. She backed him. Now he's backing her free Tory campaign, new evidence, illegal procedures used, innocent man convicted. All the Democrats in trouble. And shame on the boule. Where they at? How can they tell us about injustice, criminal in the injustice in the criminal justice system? When we're watching them do this, the hustle is over.
To film her as she harassed her over her support for ending Trump's family separations policy, and that took off like wildfire. She had really established herself as a pugnacious figure who was shrewd and effective at pummeling the political establishment in a way that the grassroots found compelling.
Do you believe that allowing these practices puts the national security of the United States at risk?
One of the first things that happened after she gets sworn into Congress is she makes a play to get on the House Oversight Committee. James Comer, the Republican from Kentucky, has a meeting with Kevin McCarthy before he goes to the steering committee to decide who gets their committee assignment, and says Ana Paulina Luna wants to be on oversight. It was the most requested seat for a committee assignment for any of the Republican freshmen. McCarthy didn't blink, said let her on. She's someone we could really use to our advantage, and that is something that has worked out for the two of them.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives censures and condemns Adam Schiff, representative of California's 30th Congressional District.
Her capstone project, which happened fairly recently, was she was able to push the Republican Party to censure Adam Schiff, who was the impeachment manager of Trump's first impeachment. which most of the party actually didn't really want to do, but she had discovered a procedural maneuver to force the vote. And while the first time it didn't work out because 20 members of her own party voted against it, she was able to mobilize a social media backlash and then forced another vote a week later, and not a single Republican voted against it. So she's already proven to be an effective new member of the Republican House. You know, she was, as a freshman, had done some research to discover a procedural maneuver to force votes on the House floor using privileged resolutions, which is what she did.
This is the opponent of Meg Thee Stallion and Rock Nation right now. This lady right here. This lady right here, who took care of that dirtbag Adam Schiff, the liar, who was talking about Russian influence in our elections. He lied the whole time and perjured himself. He said he had evidence that Russia was interfering. That was a finesse and a lie. And she found a procedure to censor his ass. Yeah, they censored. Did you know that Khalid Muhammad, our great warrior general, was censored on the U.S. Congress floor? What a shame to be censored in America. No, it's a proud honor if you're a revolutionary. But for a congressman, now he's a senator now, Adam Schiff, that's a humiliation to you. Well, this lady right here, she humiliated one of the most powerful men in the world, Adam Schiff. And now she got her eyes set on Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris and the governor of California and the rest of those people who illegally convicted an innocent man for no reason at all. That's what she's saying.
On the Schiff resolution to get it to a vote, even though there was resistance among some corners of the House leadership. That is a tactic that has since been replicated by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, who are using it to force votes on impeachment proceedings against Biden and other members of the administration. So she's shown that she at least has some tact and some strategy to try and get things to happen on Capitol Hill.
And that's what I'm going to end this conversation here today. I can't wait for about 24 hours from now so we can go over whatever this evidence is. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Keep locked to the channel, because as soon as it comes out, we're going to be going it over right here.
Hope somebody protecting it later, man. You know, Rock Nation, they vicious. They can't let this all come to the light now. Oh, hold on. That's the same thing. Okay. 1 second.
This Tory Lanze and Megan Thee Stallion drama is heating up, and as the day goes by, it keeps looking worse for Megan Thee Stallion. In the last week and a half, Tory Lanze has received more momentum in overturning his case than he probably has had in the last year and a half since he's been convicted. And Megan Thee Stallion is panicking after the week that Tory Lanze have had. I'm not here to tell you who's guilty and who's innocent or to retry this case. I'm just here to break down what has taken place over the last week and a half. Megan took to her TikTok today to beg Tory Lanze to leave her alone. On TikTok, she would write, "At what point are y'all going to stop making me have to relive being shot by Tory? At what point are Tory and y'all fans going to stop lying? Like, how much is the check to keep harassing me? Why is this happening every day? 1 minute him/y'all said I was never shot. Now y'all letting him play in your face again and say I was shot, but it wasn't him. Oh, okay." This is Megan's direct response to Tory Lanez's team doing a press conference where they would reveal that Megan's best friend, Kelsey, who was in the vehicle with Tory Lanez, who was having an argument with Megan Thee Stallion in the vehicle that night after learning that Megan Thee Stallion was sleeping with Tory Lanez behind her back, even though her and Tory Lanez were in a relationship. The bodyguard of that best friend would testify that Kelsey admitted to her husband that she was the one who shot Megan and it wasn't Tory.
No DNA, no fingerprints, missing bullet fragments. Despite those concerns, rapper Tory Lanez, whose legal name is Daystar Peterson, was convicted in connection to the 2020 shooting of fellow artist Megan Thee Stallion in the Hollywood Hills, which left her with injuries to her feet. Tory Lanez was sentenced to 10 years, a full decade behind bars. To this day, Mr. Peterson, Tory Lanze, maintains his innocence, insisting he never fired the gun. Now, new evidence and claims are surfacing, including from a witness whose accounts
$300 million
contradicts
lawsuit.
key parts of Megan Thee Stallion's version of events that night and appears to support Tory Lanze's defense.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun.
The bodyguard's testimony as it stands to me is a non-factor, not because I don't think it's credible, but I don't think it sways the opinion of either side. If you don't believe that Megan Thee Stallion was shot by Tory Lanze, then this just reinforces it. If you believe Megan Thee Stallion was shot by Tory Lanze, this isn't going to sway your opinion, right? A bodyguard who used to drive for Kelsey saying he overheard Kelsey say this is not going to change your opinion of this. You already have your mind made up. However, I do believe the bodyguard's statement and testimony combined with the other aggravating factors, now it means something. Now you guys may have enough to go back in front of a judge and present this for an appeal. Maybe have his sentence cut down, maybe have his sentence suspended to have him get out. The bodyguard statement was at least enough to have U.S. Congresswoman Anna Paulina think that Tory Lanze is innocent. It was able to sway her, and now she's an advocate for Tory Lanze. Now, this to me is the game changer, and this is why Megan Thee Stallion and Rock Nation is currently panicking. Because Tory Lanze and his attorneys putting out press conferences, talking to the media, they've been doing this for years, bro. All right, Rock Nation and Megan Thee Stallion ain't worried about Tory Lanze and his team breathing hot air for hours and having press conferences declaring his innocence. But they are concerned that an actual politician, a U.S. Congresswoman, is now taking interest in this case and is now advocating for Tory Lanze to get released. So we're going to discuss that later. So when we read the rest of Megan Thee Stallion's statement towards Tory Lanze, and you hear her panicking and you hear like the franticness within her statement, understand this is because a U.S. Congresswoman is now taking up the fight for Tory Lanze. I do think Megan Thee Stallion did make a good point, and if you're not biased, you can probably give Megan Thee Stallion some credit for making a good point. 1 minute y'all said, yo, I stepped on glass, I wasn't shot. Next minute, y'all claiming a bodyguard overheard Kelsey say she shot me. Now I was shot, but Tory didn't do it and Kelsey did it. So at some point, I do believe, though, that the people who say Megan Thee Stallion was not shot by Tory Lanze, the mind has to be made up. It has to be either she stepped on glass, she was never shot, she lied, or Kelsey shot her. I'm not discrediting either theory. I'm just saying it can't be both. You can't present with both and pick whatever theory works best that day. You kind of have to commit to either or. Either she was shot or she stepped on glass. And if she stepped on glass, then the theory of the bodyguard coming forward and claiming that he overheard Kelsey saying he shot her, that theory would mean nothing because she was never shot, right? So Megan Thee Stallion, continued. She says, 1 minute y'all said I was never shot. Now y'all letting him play in your face again and say I was shot, but it wasn't him. Okay, I'm sick of this ish. Leave me the F alone. He ain't dare get on that stand and deny he shot me. And that was his choice because he knows he did that ish. I don't give a F about a blog or a bot. Why in the F would me, Megan Thee Stallion, have to lie on this MF about shooting me? See, she says that now, and she kind of says it in a condescending tone as if like she's bigger than Tory Lanez and she's bigger than life. And no, but at the time, Megan Thee Stallion was significantly less popular than Tory Lanez, significantly less clouded up, less accomplished than Tory Lanez. So don't say, brother, like, why would I need to cloud chase off Tory Lanez for it? Nah. At the time, it was plausible. She would continue and she would say, again, how y'all mad at the person that got shot? Facts are facts. He did it. It was proven in court. F the hate campaign on the internet. Tory, you shot me. Ain't no new effing evidence. Y'all been saying the same ish for years. Tory, please leave me alone. She capitalized, please leave me alone. You a effing demon. I'm off this silly internet ish. Bye. If you're a non-biased, you could also point at Megan Thee Stallion, even if you are a supporter of Megan Thee Stallion, and say her asking Tory Lanez to leave her alone is now hypocritical Because if you guys remember in December of 2024, when nobody was talking about this Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation, everybody had moved on. Nobody was really, like, there was no major updates, no new updates, no blogs really posting about it. Megan and Tory was not in the news headlines, and Megan brought them back in the news headlines because Megan Thee Stallion decided to file a restraining order against a man in Tory Lanez who was in jail at the time. Now, get this, okay? Megan Thee Stallion filed this restraining order the very same week she had a single dropping. So a lot of people was accusing Megan Thee Stallion of using this Tory Lanez situation to promote her single, because Megan Thee Stallion also stated in the past before this that she was done speaking about it and done dealing with the situation. So filing a restraining order against a man who's in jail for 10 years was kind of crazy. It was kind of overkill as well. So you can't say leave me alone, but then on the other hand, you brought it back to the media. You brought it back to attention. You had your lawyer send in like the blog pages, and the restraining order to multiple blogs to post about it. So again, bro, you can't have it both ways, bro. Either you want to use the situation to promote singles or you don't. So U.S. Congresswoman Anna Paulina would take to Twitter to write that we have compelling evidence proving Tory Lanez's innocence, and it will be released within the next 36 hours. Those who rush to call for his incarceration, or worse yet, push false evidence, should prepare to be held accountable. This is scary coming from a congresswoman, bro. Coming from a politician is a different ball game, homie. When she not only says, hey, bro, we got compelling evidence that Tory...
It's not just that it's coming from her. We learned she's a vicious Congress lady who takes no prisoner. It is stamped by Trump. He posted this on his social media, which the whole world watches, and he stamped this looking into this case because it was a Democratic play, and they're no longer in power, and they got to pay. Now, Trump and Republicans got this card in their hands saying racial injustice went on. I don't care if the Democrats say they're just using it. It's the truth. Illegally convicted an innocent man, used the stiffest of penalties. The man probably got no 10 years. First time you saying you convicted him of doing anything in life, you give him 10 years. They say that's what the white racist Republicans do to black people, but the whole time it's them doing it.
Tory Lanez is gonna be free soon because this evidence should free him. But also the people responsible for pushing false evidence and putting Tory in jail should be ready to be held accountable. That's scary. I can see why Megan Thee Stallion is panicking, homie. Now, she would also call on Governor Newsom to review Tory Lanez's case and issue a pardon, and she tagged him directly on Twitter. She didn't stop there, bro. She could.
He have no choice. Kamala didn't win. If Kamala Harris would have won, we wouldn't be hearing about this shit. But this is when you use shit for political reasons. Kamala didn't win. The Democrats lost. Meg was no value to them. Now that she's finding out the hard way about playing in politics, the political street, you can get ran over. Gavin Newsom, to clear his hands, hell yeah, he gonna have his people review the case and say he the one exonerated. Because if he free Tory, he free Tory. Now it's just on Kamala and the rest of the Democrats, the prosecution, and everybody else who illegally convicted a man and cooked the books to sentencing, and he almost got killed. Are these people crazy?
Continue. Tory Lanez has filed a direct appeal, a habeas petition, and a successive habeas, all now consolidated by the California Court of Appeals. They have a seated panel. They have seated a panel. Oral arguments are coming. This case is far from over. Due process matters. Tory Lanez's conviction and sentencing raised major constitutional concerns. First Amendment, Sixth Amendment, 14th Amendment. These issues demand urgent review. Oh, she riding for Tory Lanez, bro. I don't know if she's doing this on her own goodwill. Now, I do know that Republicans, I guess, have had some type of motivation or a particular interest in Tory Lanez's particular case because it's a means to go at Gascon. But nonetheless, though, this is still very good for Tory Lanez and it's not good for Megan Thee Stallion, bro. If a politician, now mind you, she got allies too. So she's pulling resources with allies she knows. So once you about to start having 10, 15, 20 congresswomen and men standing together banning for Tory Lanez, come on, bro. Oh, come on, son. I don't know how Tory Lanez did this, bro. I don't know if the bag is talking. He threw a couple M's, bro, but this right here is brilliant by Tory Lanez. Megan Thee Stallion is panicking, I don't think, not only at the prospects of Tory Lanez being released, but I think Megan is panicking because Megan knows, man, once that congresswoman gets to digging, once the rocks get overturned, bro, they're going to see a lot of things that are going to get a lot of people in trouble. One thing in particular is this Tory Lanez being stabbed, is this mystery surrounding him being stabbed. I'm not saying Megan Thee Stallion is involved. I wasn't there. I don't even know why Tory Lanez was stabbed, allegedly, all right, or the real story. But Tory Lanez and his team think so. They alluded to it. They said, the conspiracy that Megan and them may be involved isn't just a conspiracy. They did everything to put the blame on Megan, but just outright say she did it. They led everybody to the water, but they ain't give us the water. They let us drink it ourselves. Here, Tory Lanez and his team break down the mystery surrounding Tory Lanez being stabbed.
Innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The timing of these events raised disturbing questions to me, and I think they all should to you as well. After over 2 years in prison, without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. Let's stop treating this like some cultural war flashpoint. This is about a man, a father, a son, Daystar Peterson, who has sat in a prison cell for over a year based on a case that wouldn't pass the smell test in any honest courtroom. The prison system can no longer guarantee his safety, and that alone should be grounds for immediate action. But combine that with the overwhelming evidence of a botched investigation, and this becomes not just a legal issue, but a morale emergency. Tory Lanez deserves a new trial. He deserves due process. He deserves a pardon. And
when they say Megan's team, they're talking about Rock Nation, more specifically Desiree Perez, because that's who worked with Megan Thee Stallion directly. Desiree Perez have some ties that really terrifies the industry, which is why she literally runs the industry. Desiree Perez has the power to call up companies and literally tell them, hey, bro, you paying this person $1 million for an endorsement deal, but give them $2 million. I don't want to hear no negotiation buy. And she's not even a part of the deal, bro. And these companies will do it. You know why they'll do it, bro? Because nobody wants to get on Desiree Perez's good side. Desiree Perez literally took down an entire cartel. Desiree Perez still have ties to cartels. Desiree Perez is bullying the industry. All right. So when we see situations like this, where they say, this is interesting. All right. We told Megan Thee Stallion team, Desiree Perez and them, that Tory Lanez got new evidence coming out. And within a day of us telling them, he was stabbed. Like, what's going on here, bro? And he was stabbed by a Mexican that he has no issue with, never had a run-in with. This is strange. And I do believe that when a congresswoman get involved and things start to get overturned, they're going to get to the bottom of this. They're going to find out if Megan's team was responsible for Tory Lanez being stabbed. This is crazy, yo. The turn of events is getting crazier, man. Let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this, man? Y'all think Megan Thee Stallion is panicking?
When it comes to ideas for your bath project, you have options within options at Floor & Decor.
It was a hit. Like it should have been for the Tory Lanez trial, because to see the way Tory Lanez is poked up in the hospital and the guy that did it got money on his books right after, it was a hit. And now, bodyguards come forward saying that it was never Tory. Like I said, how did he pull that off? He was high out of his mind. He wasn't even sober enough to hit the one in the middle. And he's bitches. Lying ass Megan. So that you can do Airbnbs and be a Harajuku Barbie in real life and be a fake anime character and make ramen with weirdos. That you did all of that. You put that man's life on the line for that. These hoes ain't nothing. All of these rap hoes ain't nothing but set-up queens.
Jaguar Wright reacting to the latest drama involving Tory Lanze. Tory was attacked in prison this week. 14 wounds from a sharp object, 7 to the back, 4 to the torso, 2 to the back of the head, and 1 to the left side of his face. Both lungs collapsed as a result of this attack by another inmate, and the timing, very suspicious. This went down after Meg Thee Stallion and her team were allegedly alerted to new evidence that could flip the whole case on its head. Evidence suggesting Tory is innocent. Yeah, the narrative that's had him locked up for over 2.5 years was built on shaky ground. And hey, let's call it what it is. It was built on lies. The real trigger puller that night wasn't Tory at all, but Megan's best friend at the time, Kelsey. Conveniently, before this new information could hit the public, Tory gets attacked and nearly lost his life. But no, fortunately for Tory, the story wouldn't end there. There are also reports of money being dropped on the attacker's books after the incident. So now everybody is sitting back connecting the dots. The internet is in flames, and Megan Thee Stallion is starting to catch heat. Finally, people are starting to admit that her story wasn't adding up from day one. And she wasn't alone in the takedown of Tory Lanez. She allegedly had serious help from Desiree Perez and Jay-Z's Rock Nation. They're all being accused of helping orchestrate a takedown to silence Tory once and for all. We're going to get into it, but first, take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell for all updates. Won't waste any time. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
The rapper serving time for shooting Megan Thee Stallion is in stable condition tonight after allegedly being stabbed by another inmate in the prison yard in California. Sources say Tory Lanez was rushed to the hospital. He's expected to be okay. He's serving that 10-year sentence for shooting Megan Thee Stallion as they left an LA party back in July 2020. Priya Sridhar is joining us now. I mean, people know Tory Lanez. What happened here?
Hey, Holly, that's right. Well, we don't have a lot of information about this just yet, but what we do know from the spokesperson for that California Correctional Institute is that this attack occurred at around 7:20 this morning. They didn't give further information about exactly how Tory Lanez was stabbed or what the potential motivation could be or where he was stabbed, but they did say that staff immediately rendered medical aid. He was transported to a local hospital, and he is suffering from non-life-threatening injuries. However, several other media outlets, including the Los Angeles Times, are reporting that this was another inmate who used a shank to stab him several times. Now, just to jog your memory about what he was exactly doing in jail in the first place, as you mentioned, he is serving a 10-year sentence. He was convicted back in December of 2022 on 3 different felony charges: assault with a semi-automatic firearm, having a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and discharging a firearm with gross negligence. Now, this all stems from an incident back in July of 2020 when Megan Thee Stallion actually testified at the trial that he, after they were departing a party at Kylie Jenner's house, they were walking towards an SUV that they should have been riding back together in when he apparently shot at her feet and told her to dance in the driveway.
Why the f you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
Miss Pat Settles It. All new tonight at 10 on BET.
Why are we called Northern Tool and Equipment and not Northern Tool and Tomfoolery? Unlike the big box stores, you get the heavy-duty stuff you want without the lightweight stuff you don't. Northern Tool and Equipment. Get serious.
Again, this is why mainstream media cannot be trusted. She literally lied about the whole story. They weren't walking to the car from Kylie's house when the incident happened. They had already left her house. This incident did not occur on Kylie's property. But the way she just reported that, that's the message that she's giving out. Then she conveniently left out how Megan and her bestie got into a physical altercation that spilled out of the car in the streets, and that's when the gun appeared and went off. But they're going to keep saying Tory shot Megan when his DNA wasn't even on the weapon. They're not telling their audience that. And that female DNA belongs to one of the two females in the fight. And we all know who that female is.
As Tory Lanze recovers in a hospital after a prison stabbing attack, his father and supporters gathered today to demand his release.
Former rapper was convicted of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Fox 7's Christopher Hardo tells us about the claim of new evidence.
Bringing it to light now was made necessary by the events of this week.
Just days after rapper Tory Lanze, also known as Daystar Peterson, was attacked in prison, his attorneys are calling on Governor Newsom to pardon or commute his sentence, insisting they have new evidence Lanze didn't shoot superstar Megan Thee Stallion, but it was instead her former best friend, Kelsey Harris. And they say Harris's one-time bodyguard, Bradley James, was spurred by conscience to come forward.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Miss Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Walter Roberts says the statement aligns with another witness who saw 2 women fighting. Lanze is serving a 10-year sentence after being convicted of shooting Stallion in the Hollywood Hills back in 2020. The singer testified against Lanze and in an op-ed wrote, quote, "Even as a victim, I have been met with skepticism and judgment. We didn't hear back from Stallion's attorney and couldn't reach Harris for comment." Lanze's lawyers say they've had the new evidence for months and were waiting on the appeals court to rule, but went public after he was stabbed in prison.
He was stabbed 14 times.
The rapper's father, Sunstar Peterson, says his son is recovering remarkably well, but recounted the story Lanze told him.
And I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?" And God said, no. God told him, do not give up.
The family and legal team insists Lanze was never given a fair trial, raising questions about the prosecution and investigation, but now say Lanze can't wait for the appellate process to play out. In downtown LA, Christy Fajardo, Fox 11 News.
Tory was absolutely railroaded. Anyone with a shred of common sense could see what was happening. The actual evidence and testimony never pointed at Tory Lanze at all. His DNA wasn't even on the weapon. But guess what was? Female DNA. And instead of doing their due diligence, they conveniently skipped testing Megan's friend to see if that DNA belonged to her. Also, key testimony that could have cleared Tory wasn't taken seriously. Then there's Kelsey, Megan's ex-bestie, who showed up demanding full immunity before saying a word. Full immunity. She knew the truth, but still twisted herself into knots to protect herself, even though she couldn't be prosecuted anyway, thanks to that sweetheart deal from the prosecution. Now, fast forward, Kelsey's own bodyguard has come forward and said it plain. It was Kelsey who did this to Megan. According to his testimony, he couldn't stay quiet knowing what he knew while an innocent man is locked up, taking the fall for something he didn't do.
So you mean to tell me Kelsey shot her friend Megan Thee Stallion and not Tory Lanez? It's another reason why we don't have friends. Breaking news has just came out, y'all. Kelsey's bodyguard feels so bad and his conscience has been playing on him so hard. After Tory Lanez was stabbed 14 times, this man done came forward and told the truth. Now, bodyguard, you know you this man been sitting in jail all this time and got stabbed. Yo, Kelsey pulled out the gun and fired off 3 shots, and then somebody knocked the gun out of her hand, allegedly.
Now, a lot of Meg supporters didn't like it when I said that something wasn't right, that it didn't make sense that Meg had her back turned to Tory, yet she's going to testify that he pew-pewed her. How can you say that you were turned and still say in the same instance that you know who did what? If he did not have pew-pew residue on his hands, how is it possible that he did this to her?
So Megan Thee Stallion knew Tory Lanez did not pew-pew her, and she proceeds to still lie about the whole time. You know who did it to you. You on motherfucking interviews and crying, acting a motherfucking fool like this man baby, I'm with Chris Brown, free Tory Lanez. I don't care no more. I don't get how y'all really be okay with fucking up people's lives who literally, like, y'all be okay with messing up people's lives. 10 years in jail. Like, come on, be for real, for real. This man is an innocent man. Like he said, he was trying to stay quiet and, not say nothing about this until y'all just kept going and going and going. The bodyguard said, Kelsey pew Megan. The story just wasn't adding up at first anyway, and it was just too much going on, too many lies back to back. Like, it was so many different stories. You just didn't know what to believe from the jump. I knew that Megan was lying, but I just didn't know it was gonna come to this. Like, she actually knew who did this to her. That's just up. That's crazy because now an innocent person is in jail because you was mad or you just didn't want to be exposed for being a fucking liar. Like, it still came out.
Like I said years ago, Tory should have never left Kylie Jenner's house that night with Megan. That was the biggest mistake of his life. Megan was belligerent, drunk, and jealous. Even after sneaking behind her best friend's back to sleep with Tory, who was dealing with him before she was. Megan wanted all the attention and couldn't stand the thought of Kelsey getting any. Then she saw Tory and Kylie flirting at that party, and she lost it. That mix of jealousy, envy, and alcohol from somebody who couldn't handle their liquor was a complete disaster, all caused by Megan, who was combative and impulsive. Tory didn't even want to leave. He was trying to stay and chill at Kylie's house. But Megan couldn't let that happen. She got the driver to turn the vehicle around, went back in there, and got him to come back with her. And that right there, the biggest mistake of his life. He had no business being anywhere near those lying, conniving, jealous Jezebels. If he had stayed where he was, he wouldn't have been caught in the crossfire when Megan and Kelsey started going at it. No, she wouldn't have been able to make him the scapegoat. Then came the indictment. Tory believed the evidence, logic, and truth would clear his name. What he didn't count on was the full-force smear campaign. When feminism is involved, it's not about facts. It's about feelings, optics, and emotional manipulation. They'll lie, twist narratives, cry on cue, and play victim, even when they're dead wrong, and people will eat it up. Tory underestimated how far they'll go to destroy a man's life. We're talking about zero logic, zero fairness, zero common sense, just a mission. And now it's all starting to unravel. Listen, this will indeed backfire hard on both Kelsey and Megan. They both watched him get 10 years for something he didn't do. Yeah, they're going to pay for what they've done. And don't think it's a coincidence. Meg was riding high on top of the world, then went on tour, brought Glorilla with her, and now Glorilla is on top. The industry's already moving on. And Megan, she's about to learn firsthand what happens when they're done using you. Nothing good is going to come from this. Nah, not after destroying a man's life and sending him to prison for 10 years over a lie. Just like so many others who've been buried by the same kind of manipulative, calculated deceit. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Tell me what you think about this mess below. Shout out to Daniel. I appreciate you, Daniel, for all of your
A few days back, I covered the breaking news that Tory was brutally attacked in prison. Tory seemed to barely survive the attack, but thankfully, he was able to pull through and is making a full recovery. Now he's back in the headlines once again. This time, it's being reported that there's new evidence in the Meg versus Tory case that has been discovered, with it now being reported that Kelsey's own bodyguard is confirming that Tory wasn't who shot Meg Thee Stallion. Now this changes everything, and if this evidence can be verified, it could help free Tory Lanez. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos exposing the truth weekly. In today's episode, we will be talking about the new evidence that can prove Tory Lanez is innocent. Let's get right into it. Right now, we are all watching Tory Lanez fight not only for his freedom, but for his life in real time. While he was found guilty a few years back, today the world is being forced to revisit that judgment, re-examine the evidence that led to the decision to throw Tory in prison. While Tory definitely isn't a perfect man like most of us, he has his flaws. What it does seem is that he is an innocent man who is most likely paying for a crime he didn't commit. This new evidence that was just presented by Tory's team could prove that to be true. But before we talk about that new evidence, I wanted to update you guys on the stabbing situation that Tory is currently recovering from. I managed to find a bit more information on what happened that day. I have been further looking into it, and what I found further confirms what I said in my last video. First, it was reported that Tory Lanze was stabbed early in the morning and it wasn't in the yard. I had reported that the incident happened in the yard as that's what the media initially reported, but it turns out he was just coming out of his cell when the attack happened. Like I said in my previous video, he was hit 14 times and was left with various wounds all over his body. Now, the media has released the name of the suspect who was accused of stabbing Tory Lanze, and his name is Santiago Casio, a 41-year-old man who is serving life in prison for the murder of his underage girlfriend. This man was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for second-degree murder, first-degree attempted murder, and personal use of a dangerous or deadly weapon to inflict great bodily injury. This man has also gotten himself repeatedly in trouble in prison. In January 2008, he was sentenced to 6 years for assaulting a fellow prisoner with a deadly weapon. In 2018, he was sentenced to another 2 years for possessing a deadly weapon. If any of you watching this video today watched the last video I did on Tory, you would remember that in the first video, I predicted this could have been a hit carried out by someone facing life. This man was in prison facing life and was already known for attacking others. Obviously, this man had no issues taking money for a hit. All they have to do is hit up someone connected to the guy on the outside who collects the payment on behalf of the guy in the inside. Then the job gets done. There have been rumors that all of this happened to Tory because he's paying off gangs in prison, claiming he didn't pay off this gang and that's why they attacked him. Some other claims are that he was behind on gambling debt or that he started a gang war with the Mexican gangs in prison. Now, the man who attacked Tory was a Latino from what it seems from looking at his mugshot. However, there isn't any confirmation or evidence to prove this was because of a gang war or because of any kind of debt. In fact, I strongly believe this attack on Tory was under orders from someone from the outside, someone who doesn't want to see Tory Lanze get out of prison. And this was basically just confirmed by Tory Lanez's team just yesterday in a press conference. Just yesterday, some representatives of the organization called Unite the People did a press conference where attorney Walter Roberts made the bold claim that Tory is innocent, claiming that they have new evidence to suggest it. They're claiming that Kelsey's bodyguard recently came forward and confessed that Kelsey had admitted to being the one who shot Megan, also admitting that Tory ran up on Megan and Kelsey to stop the shooting, knocking the weapon out of her hand, where it went off 2 more times.
We are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanze. Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out. But given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Miss Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Ms. Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member, record company executive allowed to participate? A highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted. And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do.
This new evidence could confirm that Tory Lanze is 100% innocent. If this could be verified, this could get Tory out of jail, something that is extremely important right now as Tory is in serious danger. Don't you think it's odd that after Tory made this tape from prison exposing Jay-Z and Roc Nation, this all happens to him? After months in prison with no incidents, all of a sudden he's attacked, just days after his team discovers this new information proving he was innocent. Now, if you saw my last video, you would have seen me completely break down the other evidence that seems to prove Tory was set up, especially the connection between Tory's former lawyer, Sean Hawley, and Roc Nation. If you haven't seen that video, go watch that after this one, as if you're not already convinced Tory was set up, that video will prove it. It's clear that this attack was sent from the outside, as they were trying to silence Tory, as they knew this info was coming out soon. Now, like I reported in my previous video, I have heard this story before, that Kelsey was the one who allegedly shot Megan. I honestly felt like this was what could have happened since day one, as it made more sense to me than Tory shooting Meg. To me, it's more believable that Kelsey got jealous of Meg when she found out she was hooking up with him behind her back. That day in the car, she found out what Meg was doing. So they started to fight, and Kelsey, possibly mad at her best friend who is rich and famous and could have had just about anyone she wanted, went after her boyfriend. So she tried to take her out. Tory jumped in the incident just to stop it, and this is when things got worse. This was pretty much even backed up by one of the witnesses who ended up changing their testimony after meeting with the prosecution. This explains why Kelsey wanted immunity for snitching on Tory. Many people point to the recording of Tory apologizing to Kelsey the day after everything went down as proof Tory was guilty. People say that because Tory said sorry, he admitted to doing the crime. The thing is, this sorry could have been for anything that have happened that day. He could have said sorry for something he said during the argument, or for cheating on Kelsey with Meg. There could have been many reasons for this apology, but it makes no sense to assume he would be dumb enough to snitch on himself the day after it happened. In my opinion, Tory didn't do this. In fact, Megan wasn't even pinning it on Tory at first. I believe, and this is just my opinion, that Roc Nation instructed them to go after Tory, as Tory had allegedly turned down a deal with them and also spoke out about signing to record deals. I believe Roc Nation or others saw this incident as the perfect opportunity to bring Tory down. Again, in my opinion, It could be possible that any one of these labels, including Rock Nation, could have made this all happen. Now we're getting information that Kelsey's very own bodyguard overheard her confessing to doing the crime. This could be the evidence that should change everything. And I say should because we know how corrupt the system is. That's exactly how Tory got in there to begin with. Corruption. In another part of the conference, a woman, a part of the Unite the People team, came out and basically confirmed what I said in my last video.
Itself. That's why I'm speaking out today for Daystar Peterson, better known to the world as Tory Lanze. This isn't about fame. It isn't about celebrity. It's about fairness. Tory Lanze doesn't want special treatment. He's demanding equal treatment. And if we Americans still believe in a system where guilty must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then we must admit this case raises serious concerns. Because the truth is, Tory Lanze is serving a 10-year sentence for a crime that evidence, which laid out here today, overwhelmingly suggests he did not commit. Let's go back to the night in question, just like Gianna was just talking about in the attorneys. As the attorneys laid out here today, the prosecution failed to produce a single shred of forensic evidence tying Tory to the actual gun. His fingerprints weren't on it. His DNA was later found to be 100% nearly excluded from the gun, as shown in the worksheet that was provided to the defense late on the eve of the actual trial, after making a request for that very document. After trial, looking at this evidence, there is a 0.01% chance Tory's DNA was on the firearm. That's a difficult statistic to equate with the story as told by the prosecution, which may be why this was not present in trial. In fact, there were 3 people that night at the scene who tested positive for gunshot residues. One of those was Kelsey Harris, as Gianno mentioned, the assistant to Megan Pete. According to multiple sworn testaments that you've heard today, including one from the bodyguard and driver with Harris on the 2 days of the trial, Harris admitted to firing the weapon during an emotional outburst. Tory intervened to de-escalate, not to harm. It is important to note, the police did not fingerprint anyone else who had gunshot residue on them that night, only Tory. Why? Even more troubling, the investigation itself was a disaster. Bullet fragments disappeared, the gun serial number was sealed, a move that blocked the defense from investigating ownership. Police failed to follow standard procedures. Why? Didn't mark shell casings on the road and didn't test others involved that night with DNA. This wasn't justice. It was a rush to judgment. Worse still, the prosecution knew the case was thin. So what did they do? They tacked on gun enhancements, just like they spoke about. Let's be blunt. This prosecution had everything to do with headlines and very little to do with truth. It was about symbolism, not substance. And that should concern every single one of you here today and in this country. Because when the facts take a back seat to identity, when due process is sacrificed for public spectacle, we all lose. Timing of these events raised disturbing questions to me, and I think they all should to you as well. After over 2 years in prison without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed.
As you can see, everyone can tell exactly what this is. Tory was being targeted because his team got the evidence they needed to get him out. Those who put him in there know that if this blows up in their face, it's going to be bad. So they try to make Tory disappear. One thing that I found very powerful about this conference was Tory's father. He spent this time giving the credit to Jesus for Tory's recovery, saying prayers and thanking God for saving his son.
You know, Papa, normally legacy is about passing things down, but this time I want to pass some things up.
The reason why he bears the name Daystar is because I was scheduled to speak in a conference in Washington, D.C. back in the early 2000s. I was up praying before that conference that I was supposed to speak at that evening. As I paced back and forth in my hotel suite praying, I began to quote the scripture from 2 Peter chapter 1, and it states, "For you will do well to take heed as unto a light shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the day star arises in your heart." I didn't know whether it was a boy or girl in my late wife's womb. But I heard the Holy Spirit said to me, that is the name of your child. That's why he bears that name today. And so I'm going to pray a very short prayer before I get started here today. I'm going to pray that in the spirit of when Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, stood before Pontius Pilate. Pontius said, why do you not speak? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you or to let you go free? It was only one of the times that Jesus ever spoke. He said, you would not have power over me unless God Almighty gave it to you today. And I have come to bear witness of the truth. Upon which Pontius Pilate replied, what is truth? That question was never answered in Pilate's judgment hall. But I answer it for you today because Jesus Christ himself told us what the truth was. Truth is not a philosophy. It's not an ideology. It's not a doctrine. And it certainly is not a religion. Truth is a person. His name is Jesus Christ, who said, I am the way, the truth that leads you to life. Father, upon the basis of your word today that this nation was founded upon, I ask that every ear that needs to be opened, including the ear of the governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, I'm even asking today that in the midst of Mr. Trump's busy schedule as president of the United States, that this would come into his hearing. And so, Father, I ask you today, by your spirit, because you're the only reason why my son is yet alive, have your way, and let this be glorifying your name. I thank you for it in Jesus' name. I want to dispel a few rumors because I've been asked to by my son, Daystar, aka Tory Lanze. Number one, Daystar does not have a drinking problem. Daystar did not suffer superficial wounds. He was stabbed 14 times. After that, he was being rushed to a facility nearby in a vehicle in which he said, and I quote, Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me? But God said no. God told him, do not give up, in the car, upon which he turned to the attending officers and he said, you must get me to wherever is the closest place that I can get to. I'm bleeding out here. He didn't even know his lungs had collapsed. All he knows is that he couldn't breathe. He could hardly speak. Upon which the officer turned around and looked at him and said, nah, we got to take him. He has to be airlifted. And thankfully, to God be the glory.
As you can see, Tory's father is fighting the battle with God. It's clear that God had a say in Tory's survival, as being hit 14 times would take out most men. After this press conference, I believe that Tory should at least get another trial. But considering the courts are owned by Masons, who knows if Tory will ever get the second chance to prove his innocence. Regardless, it's good to see him and his family stand up for the truth. At this point, Tory represents standing up for the truth, and hopefully, he will get a chance to prove he's been telling the truth the entire time. Well, I'm gonna end this one here. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys.
I want to cover this Tory thing real quick. So if you guys don't know, it appears that there's mountain support for Tory Lanez, either pardon or a look into the case about maybe some of the evidence that seemed to be maybe in his favor, and that maybe a conviction should have not been the decision. So, sorry. If you don't know, we've seen a ton of celebrities post this. They're supporting Tory Lanez and they're advocating for his release. And I mean, some of the people who have posted this, including Drake. It's included, who else? So we got Drake, Kodak Black. Where is it? I don't even. Yeah, Drake shared a petition urging Governor Newsom to pardon Tory Lanez. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Let me be very clear. I'm a straight shooter with y'all. I love Tory, but I'm always a straight shooter. So where Tory's at right now, he has Hail Marys left. I'm going to be honest. This is Hail Mary land, okay? He's on 4th and 32. This is not 4th and 2. It's 4th and 32. When you get in the land of you need a pardon or you need what's called a habeas corpus. A habeas corpus usually is for people who are detained without cause, and they're detained for a while, and there's no legal basis for their detainment. And sometimes, and especially when you see people, sometimes it's even illegal aliens detained in some very non-traditional or cool conditions, Guantanamo Bay, etc. The idea of habeas corpus is the government needs to explain or give a reason why they are detaining someone and preventing them from their rights, which is a right to freedom. I say that to say it's a Hail Mary. Okay. I'm always going to be cautioned and I'm always going to be measured in how I speak about Tory Lanez's case, because I was one of those people that thought Tory was going to beat the case. So I don't want to ever give y'all false hope to act like Tory's about to get out tomorrow. I want to be very, very honest. Okay. I think the people who did that, who went to trial, the reporters, I think they weren't truthful. And people like me, who I sit here, and even with this case with Diddy, sometimes we feel we're getting A and B happens. I talked to Mo Gagnon later. He said he had a feeling that things could go left once Tory's own witness switched up on him for the prosecutor. So I want to be very careful. If you're wondering why I give the updates on Tory like this, I want to be very honest. There's 2 appeals in. One's appeal for a new trial, right? Citing that, hey, there's new evidence. Number one, well, they haven't put this new thing that Kelsey's bodyguard has witnessed or heard some stuff. They haven't put that in yet, but the current evidence says the DNA evidence, new reports or analyzation of the DNA that was found on the weapon actually excludes Tory, and that's exculpatory. Appellate court has not weighed on that yet. That is a possibility. I'm being honest with y'all. I'm giving y'all, I'm a straight shooter. I think it's 30% right now for Tory. So that's 30%. They have another thing called habeas corpus, 30%. You don't add both of them because it's either one or the other, so it's still 30%. It's one or either, or one or the other. Then the last thing, which I think is a 10% chance, is what's called a pardon. Tory Lanez cannot be pardoned by the President of the United States. Donald Trump does not have the authority to pardon a state prisoner. He has the influence to affect and influence the pardon of a state prisoner, but it's very rare historically that any president tries to meddle in state business, especially with violent offenses to that nature. But it has been done before. Will Trump say, oh, nah, get Tory out of jail? I think that would move the needle. I don't think so, being honest. So how do you get pardoned if you're Tory Lanez? You get pardoned in a state court by the governor of California. Now, let me tell you.
First of all, Trump came out, posted the post of the Republican who is backing Tory Lanez to get him free. That's Trump putting his hands on this case by backing the lady who in Congress who now says she's pushing for the evidence of the unfair trial and the miscarriage of justice. So your own act. Trump is already showing he's going to step on those Democrats for what they did. It's political now.
Let me tell you why being pardoned is very important for Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez has been convicted of what's called a felony. Absolutely. Usually a felony in most places is a crime that is punishable by a sentence of more than 365 days in jail, which means a year and a day. Okay? Tory Lanze, who's not a resident of the United States because he was convicted of a felony that carries a punishment of over a year and a day. By the way, he was given 10 years. What happens is that ICE and immigration proceedings immediately kick in once he's done with the sentence. Tory would be seen and now known as a convicted felon. And usually when convicted felons serve their sentence, at least especially under the new guidelines that Trump got, you get immediately deported. If it was Biden, maybe not. Under Trump, you get immediately picked up by ICE and deportation starts. Now, Trump is only going to be president for the next 3 years. 2028, he will be out, barring some other things that we don't know about now. We don't know if there will be a Republican in or another Democrat. If it's Democrat, they might relax all of the deportation laws and might allow people who have been convicted of felonies to still stay in the United States. However, right now, if Tory was released, say he did his 10 years and was released right now, he would be put in an ICE detention facility to be deported back to Canada. Okay. The person who could do the pardon is someone named Governor Gavin Newsom. He's a liberal governor for the state of California. And the reason why I say there's a 10% chance, because I do believe Tory Lanez's team and everybody else is doing an amazing job of creating what we call a pardon package. Some of you guys might not know this. The governor, the president of the United States don't just pardon random people. You get advocacy groups, you get a lot of money behind somebody, and they start putting together a package. It's almost like PR. They start promoting. That's what happened with Lil Wayne when he got pardoned. That's what happened with Kodak Black when he got pardoned. I can tell you this now. He got pardoned, and this is why I'm cool with this guy. Bradford Cohen, a guy who's came on here a lot, he's friends with Trump. He referred both cases to Trump for pardoning, worked with other people to do the package, and Trump pardoned Lil Wayne and Kodak. Everything I'm saying here is all facts. The problem is with Gavin Newsom, he's a Democratic, liberal governor in a constituent or a state of California that loves homosexuals, transsexuals. They prefer women over men. And for that very reason, because of their woke ideology, it's very unlikely that that person will be down to pardon someone who is alleged to have shot a woman, whether it's believed or not. Why? Is it because Tory is innocent or guilty? No. It's because your constituents need you to be woke, and that's not woke. Woke is protect women. Woke is believe all women. Woke is even if they lie 50 times, believe them again. So I believe that this pardon, and I do think it's helping to change public perception, because I do think now it's cool to support Tory. Will this governor who has the power, because I'm telling you Trump won't touch it, will he pardon Tory? I don't think so. I just don't think so. However, I do think that the growing pressure, the growing noise is good for Tory.
Put yourself in his shoes. You learn you have Crohn's disease, but your Houston Methodist team uses a less invasive technique to treat you faster. That's the difference between practicing medicine and leading it. For you, Houston Methodist, leading medicine.
And I know I say I don't think he will, but you never know. The noise might grow so loud enough that he might have to. Now, I say that to say because when I speak about freeing Tory Lanez, I like to speak from a legal perspective. I've spoke my own opinion many a times, but at this point, it doesn't matter what your opinion is, whether he shot her or not. Now we're talking about, despite your opinion, do you believe his sentence should be commuted, which means shortened? Do you think he should be pardoned, which means his crime should be forgiven? Again, it doesn't matter if you believe he did it or not. We know what a conviction is. Now, I say that to say, because I'm, like, I hate when people try to put me on sides of this Tory shit. I'm a straight shooter when it comes to this shit. I'm going to be straight the whole time. So, Drew, put this up there. This is the straightest shooter you're going to get with any of this shit. I done told you, I think Tory got between a 10% and a 30% chance of being released. Maybe it will grow because people do love him. And people are starting to realize that absent this woke ideology, you're able to look at other things that actually worked in his favor that made you think, damn, well, how did he get convicted despite these things? You know, this idea or theory that Kelsey Nicole shot Meg, people said, well, why would Meg say her? Also, they said, well, Tory's on the jail phone. He basically admitted it. Well, let me give you another scenario. I don't know who did the shooting, so don't ask me for my opinion. I do have an opinion, but it's not about my opinion. It's all about the law at this point. So I'm only going to speak in fact. But I'm going to use one conjecture and I'm going to use one scenario for y'all, because when people keep talking about Tory in a jail call, they act like he acknowledged and admitted that he did it, because they said, well, why would somebody, if he didn't do it, get on and apologize, say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I hope y'all forgive me. That's a great question. I ask that shit to myself too. I'm human. I ask that shit to myself. I'm not on nobody's payroll. I ask questions. But I implore you guys to be fair across the board. Be fair. Ask the similar question in the other sense. If this been your homegirl for over 10 years, you met Tory 6 or 8 months ago, I don't care what dick he done slung on you. If Tory Lanze done shot your homegirl, even if y'all were arguing over a man, why the hell would you be on the phone with Tory Lanze? Riddle me that. So you knew her for over 10 years. And a nigga who, let's say he shot her, because you were there. Why would you be on the phone with him? Why would you be on the phone with him listening to, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that? Why? Why not say on the phone, Tory, why you shoot my friend? Why did you hurt my friend? Why were you trying to hurt her or me? These are questions we need answers. There's a lack of credibility all over the place. You wanted us to believe that he shot you, but didn't want us to have to understand maybe if he did, what the motive would be. You're the victim. You're showing up in court. You've pronounced on social media what happened, but yet you go on Gayle King and say, I've never had sex with this man a day in my life. We have no intimate relationship. All the while knowing that the argument and fight that started was because y'all had an intimate relationship. But you were cool to go lie to Gayle King. There's too many inconsistencies. You see, the American justice system, which I'm so happy to be a Jamaican American, someone who vehemently defends not only the flag, but what we have with our Constitution and our way of life. I love being here. Trust me, I love it here. Why on earth, if there are so many inconsistencies, would we not have some doubts or reason or cause to question why is someone incarcerated when even the average Joe could say this doesn't seem like it's beyond a reasonable doubt? We had changed statements. We had people who couldn't keep the same type of, okay, we said one thing here. No, I didn't fuck him. No, now I did. Oh, I didn't know there was a gun. Now I know there's a gun. The stylist is saying this. Sean Kelly is saying this. The stories are all over the place. But nevertheless, I'm a guy who believes in law and order. Without law and order, we have nothing. Does the system get things wrong at times? Of course. we should deal with it civilly and through the legal system. And this is where I get confused. You know, I said this about the DDG case, and I've said this in many other cases when it comes to women and men. A lot of times when women can't win the narrative battle, they get legal. It's very important that they win the narrative battle. So let me explain. Newsflash. I want to give I don't know if this is a congratulations I need to give, or I don't know if, I should just say a prayer for her because, she's, I guess, technically a victim. I want to say to Meg Thee Stallion, Meg, I empathize with you. We pray for you. If you ask me personally, I do believe you got hurt that night. I don't know off the hands of who. I do hear what you say, but there's a lot of things that suggest otherwise. And that's why I'm skeptical. But I do pray for Meg that she gets the healing that she needs, because unfortunately for her, it doesn't feel like her peace is coming from the fact that she was vindicated in even the story she told on the stand because Tory was found guilty. It appears that the vindication she seeks is that Tory stays in jail. Now, let me explain the difference. She went to that trial. She cried. She testified. She gave her story. The jury agreed with her. Now, that should be her healing journey. We've seen in situations where someone has done something, maybe they've been contrite enough, maybe the laws have changed, maybe other circumstances that came about. We've seen people be let out of jail, their sentence reduced, or other things. I say this to say people campaigning for the release, the pardon, or the reinvestigation of the trial, I think Meg has to realize that's not an anti-you thing. If you're a victim, you should be working on your own victimhood. It's not tied to Tory being locked up. We've seen many people get let out, and it's not because of who they supposedly harmed. It could be because of a bunch of extenuating circumstances. So when I see Meg commenting, or she feels offended that there's any movement about Tory's possible release,
don't wish. Don't hope. Don't.
That confuses me. Meg, you already got your justice. They said he's guilty. The idea of how long he serves, or if people want him to get out, or even if it's a pardon. And this is what I've always said about Meg. If she's playing a political PR game, you already got your win. Who gives a fuck what Tory's saying now? As long as Tory doesn't mention you. And Tory doesn't mention you. You have a restraining order against him and he's in jail. He can't. And it goes back to what I keep saying. What's my new favorite saying? If they can't win the public narrative, they start to sue. Meg, Tory isn't the one that's saying you're lying, his fans. When you come out and lash out and call him a demon and a devil, because he's not going to just take this conviction lying down and just go die on the sword, he's saying, I'm going to fight for my freedom because I do have rights. That's not a indictment of you. That's a man trying to fight for his own rights. But you've taken it to be the opposite. You're taking what Tory's fans and the growing momentum. There was a time when UN was basically trying to say if anybody supported Tory, they better stay there. They're going to be over there with them because features, touring, other type of collabs, it was out the window. But we just seen the biggest artist in the world, Drake, he supported. Seen a bunch of other people, they're supporting. I guess I'm not trying to be adversarial here with Meg. I'm trying to I'm trying to let her know that the people who are riding for Tory Lanez's freedom is not necessarily an indictment on you. You already got your conviction. I feel like she's searching for true peace, but also career, happiness. If Tory gets out, you know what happened in the trial. You should heal off of that. But this idea where you keep putting up messages, like, for example, this. And by the way, if Tory was putting up messages towards you, I would say the same to Tory. Meg put up a message, a lot of it that was typed in caps, saying, at what point are y'all going to stop making me have to relive being shot by Tory? At what point are Tory and y'all fans going to stop lying? Like, how much is the check to keep harassing me? Why is this happening every day? 1 minute him or y'all are saying I was never shot, to now y'all are saying, to now y'all letting him play in y'all face again and say I was shot, but it wasn't him. Okay. I'm sick of this shit. Leave me alone. He ain't dare get on that stand and deny he shot me. And that was his choice because he knows he did that shit. I don't give a fuck about a blog or a bot. Why in the world would me, Meg Thee Stallion, have to lie about this motherfucker about a shooting or shooting me? How y'all mad at the person that got shot? Facts are facts. He did it. It was proven in court. Fuck the hate campaign on the internet. Tory, you shot me. Ain't no new fucking evidence. Y'all been saying the same shit for years. Tory, please leave me alone, you fucking demon. I'm off this silly ass internet shit. Bye. Meg, I get you. The only problem I see is that Tory Lanez doesn't mention your name directly. Tory Lanez just got recently stabbed 14 times. We don't even know if he's completely breathing or could even move on his own at this point. If Tory was slandering you, if Tory was dropping songs, making fun of you, acting like you were lying, that would be another thing. Tory Lanez is nursing himself back to health after a pretty much attempt on his life. You are never going to find true healing if you're concerned about what the hell Tory and Tory's fans, specifically Tory fans, are doing. That's the problem. So again, I watched this and I said, well, Tory didn't say nothing. Well, what is she talking about? Then it dawned on me. She wants this guy in jail forever. She wants him to die in jail. I digress.
A bowler was in Las Vegas for a tournament when he lost his wallet. So his Frost banker flew there with a new debit card?
All right. She mad at Tory. Tory ain't say shit. She's mad at fans because fans are now believing Tory. And by the way, let me put it up to this. So actually, yeah, I didn't mean to end there. The problem is Meg is watching the public narrative change. The Kodak Blacks, the Drakes of this world, they would shout out Tory, but they were scared to just post a petition saying this man is wrongly accused. A lot of people are saying it now. It's growing. That sentiment is like a seed that you just planted, and now it's growing. That 30% I said for each that 30% for each appeal, I think with public support, it's now going to be turned to closer to 50. You have other people like Rep Luna, who's a congresswoman out of, I believe, Florida. She has tweeted in support of Tory Lanez by saying, and let's get to this. She says, we have compelling evidence proving that Tory Lanez innocence. He will be released in the next 36 hours. Those who rush to call for his incarceration and worse yet, push false evidence should prepare to be held accountable. Before then, she tweeted yesterday, speaking about Tory, and she actually said, so I can find it. Maybe I can't. Regardless, she continued to tweet and said, Tory Lanez's defense was denied full access to DNA evidence. The entire samples were used by the prosecutor before the defense testing. Reports weren't shared until before a just trial. That's a violation of due process. Now, I'm going to be honest. I think that's criminally wrong. I don't know if Tory has much of a case on that on appeal. I believe that the government's case is that we offered you the chance to test, you declined. That's why we used all of it up. We'll see if that's their situation. Anna Pauline Luna, again, the rep for Florida, says Tory Lanez was sentenced to 10 years, despite having no prior record, largely due to a firearm enhancement law now under scrutiny for racial bias. Black defendants face a 92% higher rate of this enhancement. That's not justice, that's discrimination. Justice isn't served when due process is ignored, evidence is mishandled, and race plays a role in sentencing. Tory Lanez deserves a fair hearing, and if justice prevails, he deserves his freedom. She then continued by saying Tory Lanez's conviction and sentencing raises major constitutional concerns. The First Amendment, use of lyrics as evidence. The Sixth Amendment, the right to confrontation. 14th Amendment, equal protection under racially biased enhancements, says these issues are under urgent review. Now, keep in mind, she is a rep in Florida, not in California, where this case is actually at. Says Tory Lanez has filed a direct appeal, a habeas petition, and a successful habeas, all now consolidated by the California Court of Appeals. They have seated a panel. Oral arguments are coming. The case is far from over. Due process.
Conflict. From me.